My main thing left and my side thing switched up. It's better that way. I was getting them mixed up. Main thing left, side thing switched up. It's better that way.
Welcome back to the Freelance Network podcast, everybody. A podcast by content creators for content creators. So to address from last episode, we used Sully's new song, Heart Problems, in the intro and outro. We're going to be using it for the next couple episodes. Definitely check it out, but I just wanted to address it because we haven't had an intro yet. But we're very excited for today's episode. So I'm Luke, joined by my co-host,
Cassie.
Cassie's lit. And today, I compared this episode yesterday to the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour from Nickelodeon because this is the crossover of the 2020s decade. These are my lovely friends, Flynn and Gianni from the podcast Chatting Cinema. Welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
I am Flynn.
I'm Gianni.
They are no strangers to this room because they've recorded about 20 episodes of their own podcast in
Yes.
here that I've been on a lot because we love movies. But like I said, this is like the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour.
Yeah.
This is a crossover.
It's genuinely the first podcast crossover we've had at Stockton, so
Exciting.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So expect our animation styles to change, just like Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents.
CW
We're not even
Arrowverse.
people right now.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so we wanted to have these guys on because they're our podcast neighbors. We record usually the same days,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
about, and
A lot of
we're
the
always
time.
like high-fiving each other as we're walking in and out
Yeah.
of the podcast studio. But yeah, so guys, how are you? What's up?
Good.
Doing well.
Doing
Yeah.
good. Having a great old time.
So then why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. We do a movie podcast because, as Luke so graciously mentioned earlier, we love movies. And, yeah, it kind of just came about because we've been good friends since high school and have always loved talking about movies. And kind of found some time together where we were just going to talk about movies anyway. So kind of became the question of, well, why don't we record it and put it out there and make content out of it? And it's been great so far.
Yeah. I think for a long time I've been wanting to sort of start my own type of show or podcast. And then SSTV presented us with a great opportunity to do that. So I kind of jumped on it.
Yeah.
He did jump on it. I was there. But yeah, so their podcast is all about movies. It's talking about current things, things from the past, retrospectives, whatever. So anything current going on that you guys got?
Well, we're about to start our Harry Potter retrospective. So we'll be
Ooh,
looking
very
at
excited about
the
that.
8 Harry Potter films, not including Fantastic Beasts
Yes.
and Where to Find Them.
Yes.
But just those first 8 Harry Potter movies. Really excited to do that. And then every week it's by the week, we're thinking of topics and
Mhm.
movie-related things to talk about. We just did our first interview with another content creator by the name of Maurizio Velasco of Brown Table on YouTube. Check him out, Brown
Yeah.
Table Entertainment on YouTube. And we're hoping to do a lot more interviews with other content creators down the road.
Yeah.
Similar to what you guys do.
Oh,
Look
more
at that.
crossovers.
That
Lot of
interview was really cool, being able to talk to somebody who's kind of established and been doing it for a couple years and has really carved out a niche and has a big following now. So to have him on and have him talk about, content creation and what to keep doing, how to stick with it, how to, budget your time, things like that. It's a really enlightening conversation, and we're really excited to have it with him.
That's great. So one of the big things I want to talk about today is just podcasting as a whole, because this half of the table is podcast, this half of the table is podcast. So
I think that makes a whole Luke.
yeah,
That's a
I know.
whole
That's a
cast.
whole.
Two
Yeah.
halves.
It's a whole cast.
we have a whole podcast.
One pod,
here.
one cast. Put them together.
This is
Makes
currently
sense.
a pod. But I wanted to ask you guys, so far since you've been doing a podcast since September, what is your favorite part about doing it?
My favorite part, I don't know. It's hard to narrow it down because I love that we get to come in here every week, sometimes more than once a week,
Mhm.
and we have these really exciting conversations about the things we love, which are
Yeah.
movies. But I think from a technical standpoint, I really do enjoy editing the shows and getting them out there in the world. That's become a really kind of fun sort of routine for me. And I like keeping up with social media and the channel and making thumbnails and all that stuff. So really cool.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's really having an outlet to talk about things I love, because there are just so many thoughts that I see so many movies and I want to talk about them. So having a place to have those conversations, and then seeing people, it doesn't matter how many, just seeing like one person listen to it and like it and enjoy what we're talking about and things like that is just so awesome to like have any number of people listening to you talk about something that you love and deriving some sort of enjoyment from it has been really cool.
That's awesome. So why don't we talk a little bit about you guys though? Like, because I mean, we've heard the stories, but talk about like how you two met, because it's amazing for a movie podcast, the setting.
Yeah, we met in high school.
Yep.
My sophomore year, Flynn's junior year.
Yeah.
And we were in drama club together. But I would say that from the get-go, we bonded and formed a friendship over movies.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the first things we talked about was probably like Civil War and Batman v Superman. Right around that time, we were kind of talking about
what an exciting era that was.
Yeah.
2016, man.
That's awesome. I think one of the first questions that we usually like to ask like our guests, which you guys can talk about too, is how did each of you get into content creation in general?
For me, I think that it was just like my love of movies really, it starts when you're a kid, you just like movies, but really in high school, like, right around the time we became friends is when I got into like movie YouTube and not just like watching movies, but understand how people like perceived movies. And, so watching like channels like back then it was AMC Movie Talk that has since rebranded into Collider Movie Talk, but seeing people on YouTube talk about movies and then going into high school and talking with Gianni and having the same kind of conversations that were recorded was definitely sort of inspiration for me to be like, this is what I want to do, like people are talking about things I love in ways I agree with and ways I disagree with. And I can just remember watching shows like that, like AMC Movie Talker, Schmoes Know, was a big one back when I was in high school watching, and just being like, man, I can really imagine myself on that couch or at that table talking about this kind of stuff. So I think that to me was really what got me wanting to do something like this.
And now look at you. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Not me.
Not me. No, I think for me, content creation goes back to like middle school, or at least the first time that I could really get my hands on a camera. I mean, for better or worse, I tried to film as much as I could and try and make different things over the years, and it's been a lot of trial and error for sure. There was a short time in high school when I tried vlogging.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the cringiest things to ever come out of me, and but I like that I did that, and I'm glad that I did that because it was more or less a learning experience, and it kind of springboarded me into what I do now, which is this podcast with Flynn. And I make videos all the time that I always post to Instagram, and I'm really proud of them. They're not necessarily vlogs, but they're definitely capturing the most special moments in my life. And I think they're really good and a lot less cringy than my vlogs.
We have such an like exciting opportunities like living now, just being able to like you have your phone and you can film a video wherever you're going, or you can record things. Just like having a platform to get things out there now is so awesome. Because there was a time where you might have wanted to do something like this and there was no way you could do it. And now we kind of just like have snowballed and been able to do our podcast, and we really love doing it. And so I'm so grateful that like we live in an era where you can just record your own stuff and put it out there and have places to put it. Yeah, and I'll springboard off of that. One of my biggest inspirations in high school and even to today has been Casey Neistat, and he is probably the hardest working content creator that I have ever kind of had the pleasure of watching on YouTube. And he inspired me to start my own cringy vlogs. He inspired me to make the videos I make now, and in a way inspired me to make this podcast, because I really do feel obligated each week to get something out there and never be late, never miss an upload. And so far I've been really lucky and fortunate to not have. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you guys, because, I mean, Luke knows you more on a personal basis, so...
Movies.
Because of movies, yeah, definitely. But as, like, for your college experience and what you want to do after college, because you already graduated, Flynn. So Gianni actually interned with me. That's how I know him. But when you interned with the TV station, like, did you have any interest in that kind of stuff, or did you just kind of do that internship to, like, get experience? Like, because I know that you're more film oriented, so I just wanted to know, like, what your place in TV was.
Yeah, so I took Joel Ludovich's TV production class when I transferred to Stockton in the fall of 2018. And that was just one of the classes that I took just to kind of fill a requirement and get into the comm program a little bit. I had no idea what it was going to kind of snowball into, and what that was this real appreciation and love for, you know, being behind the camera, being on camera, and being a part of a team and a crew. And that class really gave me the foundation for all of that. So I was able to work on a talk show. I brought my stepsister in, who she owns a small business, and it was really great. But it was from that moment that I decided, like, oh, I need to do this more. Like, I remember when that class was over, I was telling Joelle, like, I'm so sad that I'm not going to come here every day. And then she was like, well, there is this internship. And that was the TV production internship with Cassie and with Mike Zabriskie and Jordan Ellis. And Jordan Ellis, no. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, I
You're
was.
right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jordan Ellis is also a YouTuber, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute, it is Jordan Ellis. And that's just TV also.
Double Ellis.
But yeah, I love that internship because, again, it's part of a team, you're part of a crew, you're making something each week, and I felt really responsible for it and like I was learning something. So hopefully post-college I can find myself on a crew, on a film set, on a TV set, or, you know, on camera. We'll see.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then Flynn, like I'd mentioned, you had already graduated.
Yeah.
So what did you do for, like, internships and stuff like that while you were here?
So the internship I did at Stockton in school was the WLFR internship, was the internship at the radio. And I did that internship pretty much knowing that I probably wasn't going to do anything with radio. But I thought it was really valuable to do it because I got experience doing something I wasn't, you know, comfortable with. And that was, you know, sort of my first time, like, recording, like, just audio based and being out there and mixing. And so that was a really interesting experience. And then I did 2 internship programs with the Press of Atlantic City. Again, not really thinking that was what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked writing. So companies like Collider or like the Hollywood Reporter have entertainment journalists, and they write about castings, movies, news, write reviews, things like that. And I think that that's always kind of what I wanted to do. And so I thought the experience at the press would be really good just being like a regular journalist. So I got to write about entertainment, but I was writing about a whole bunch of things and kind of like learning how to write and how to craft stories based on things that don't necessarily interest me and that I might not really think about writing about prior to that. And getting to interview people and just talk to people out doing stories was really cool. So they were my 2 sort of internship experiences. Again, neither really fitting into like what I thought I wanted to do, but both offering valuable experience and kind of like informing my decisions past that.
That's awesome. So what do you, like, what's your, like, goal now that you're out of college?
So I would really like to write. I've done post-college, done some freelance work. So I've worked with a guy named Nigel Bach. He lives in Egg Harbor Township and has made these like cult classic horror comedy movies. They're on Amazon Prime. It's the Bad Ben franchise.
Ben.
Yes.
We talked
We
about
have
that
talked
with
about
Steve
this.
Reynolds is on
So
here.
I
Yes.
connected with Nigel through Steve Reynolds. He's a good friend of mine. And I've done some freelance camera work with him because he also has a wrestling league. So getting to do that, filming has been really cool because that's been the first time in a while that I've been behind a camera and doing content like that. And so sort of honing those skills has been really cool. And then I've been working with an esports company, Godhammer Gaming, G3 Esports, and doing some writing for them. So again, like keeping to hone those skills and working on their website or, a one sheet, like things helping to tell their story. Because I think that everything that I do, whether it's the podcast or writing, I just really like storytelling. So to be able to take all of these experiences that all kind of fit into the world of storytelling some way, has been really great because it's really like diverse and wide ranging, and I can take little things from each of them that really drive what I genuinely want to do.
So what about you, Gianni? Like, what's your like kind of end goal or like a goal you currently have?
I mean, I said earlier that I love the videos that I make for my personal Instagram. And honestly, the goal is to make movies. I really want to kind of break into that game. I know, Luke, you do too.
We gonna make movies together?
It's a dream. It's been a dream for a long time, and I don't think that it's totally out of reach. I really don't. As some people would probably tell you that it is. I think it's doable. I think it's possible. You just have to keep trying, keep going at it, and eventually you'll be in the right place at the right time, or you'll make the right thing at the right time, and then it happens. So
couldn't agree more, buddy. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's why I like our field in general and our people, all of our friends.
Yeah.
Like a mini networking lesson for y'all at home right now. So me and Cassie knew each other. Cassie met Gianni in their internship. I met Gianni because I actually did a stand-in thing for your show where I completely ad-libbed as if I was his stepsister. We didn't know each other. It's just because I knew Reagan, who was also in your internship, and like then me and Flynn met back in my first semester at Stockton, and because of Flynn, I became better friends with him, and then that's how their podcast started.
Yep.
So make friends with people.
Yeah.
It's very important. Like the four of us have all like interconnectedly become friends, and then they went to high school with Steve Reynolds, and they went to the same high school as Jordan Ellis. So like, you're like, it's just there's so much networking happening just in small southern New Jersey.
Yeah. You never know where those connections are. Like the esports company I was talking about. I met Anthony God, the CEO of G3, through my Press of Atlantic City internship. I wrote a story about a data center that they built at the in the basement of the Atlantic City Convention Center. And so beyond that, talking to them, it was like, yeah, well, Atlantic City is really interested in the world of esports and building this industry up here and kind of trying to get out in front of, an industry that seems like on the cusp of like really breaking out. So my editors were like, there's this guy, Anthony, at that time he was the CEO of a company called In-Game Esports. Reach out to him, talk to him. We had a really great conversation. I was like, yeah, I'd like to talk to you again. And then my second internship program with the Press of Atlantic City, I wrote a different story about esports, just like what was going on in the world of South Jersey, because now Stockton University has a really solid esports team that's kind
Rocket
of
League.
growing exponentially because they're really good. And high schools in the area, like Egg Harbor Township High School, Mainland, in sort of the South Jersey realm, are building esports programs. So during that story, I talked to Anthony again, and then we met, we had coffee, and one thing leads to another. Keeping that relationship intact and talking to him from a mutual love of Star Wars actually was something we bonded over, and that's what led me to be able to have this opportunity to kind of write for them. So networking is huge, and you never know when those connections are going to happen and when you're really going to like click with somebody, because it could happen anywhere.
Boom, another networking lesson for everybody at home.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned this a couple times on our podcast, but networking is probably the most important for our field because a lot of our fields, I'm sorry to say it's who you know and not what you know.
Yeah.
So you can get like the most crazy opportunity just by knowing someone, like through someone. It's like, it's important. You just have to, I've seen so many content creators like just not want to talk to anybody, not want to leave their house, and then expect to just apply to a job and get it. And
Yeah.
if nobody knows who you are and nobody even like can vouch for you, like what's the point in being in this field,
Yeah, that connection with Nigel, like filming for his wrestling league, that goes all the way back up to a professor at UArts mentioning it to Steve and I's mutual friends. So like that sort of like domino effect of like knowing who you know who also knows this person who learned about this person through that person is like so crazy. And the first time I was filming with Nigel, Steve and I were doing it together, and I was like, man, what am I doing here? You know, like how did I get here? How did this sort of tumble
I gotta
into
say,
this?
it sounds freaking wild to
Yeah.
film like a South Jersey wrestling league.
It's crazy, and it was so much fun. Like, it's a dream opportunity every time, because you're just like getting paid to have fun and hang out and film stuff. It's awesome experience with him. And again, like, wouldn't have happened if I didn't know somebody who knew about somebody who watched something on Amazon Prime and then talked to his class about it. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, just a little weird South Jersey Amazon Prime movie led to opportunities for
Yeah.
you, which is insane.
Yeah.
And it's like in your hometown.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
like you found out about it because your friend Mitch, which
Right.
Mitch has submitted many questions to us. We love you, Mitch. We're gonna
Shout out
get
to
you on
Mitch.
here eventually. But like Mitch found that, and then it came back to you guys,
Yeah.
which is hilarious.
Yeah, and you know, Mitch has worked on films with him, and then I'm actually planning on being in his next Bad Ben film, which I'm super stoked on. So again, that's another, like, going back to how we met acting. Like, I have not really done it at all in college. So getting back to that, which was something that I really loved in high school, and being able to do that in just like a fun, laid back opportunity is really cool, that I'm really excited about.
We have multiple Bad Ben actors on our podcast now.
I know. This is
Yeah.
just like a Bad Ben network.
Yeah, Bad Ben Network.
We're going to
Mhm.
change our name.
Copyright it. Copyright it. Get rid of this sign. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah. I guess since it's a crossover, if you guys want to like mention your favorite movies to our viewers, because you've definitely probably talked about it on your podcast, but
I love movies.
I will say, because my list is always changing.
Well, you know what we could do?
Hmm.
We could just read them our top 4 from Letterboxd.
I know. I was just gonna bring that up. My
We're
my
all obsessed with Letterboxd right now.
Yes.
Letterboxd is the best social media out there
I agree.
for movie lovers.
Yeah.
For not movie lovers.
explain to the audience what
Ah,
Letterbox
yes.
is.
So, Flynn, one day, I saw Flynn tweet something about Letterboxd or something.
I had I tweeted out a screenshot of my activity log, because in the wake of Bong Joon-ho's big night at the Oscars, I was such a big Parasite fan. Within 2 days, I watched his other 6 movies. So I tweeted out a screenshot from Letterboxd from my activity log with the hashtag BongHive. So that was the tweet.
Yeah, so I
That was
saw
the-
that tweet and I was like, wait a second, like, what is that? Because it's like logging movies. So we have a group chat that's called I Love Movies. And I'm like, hey, Flynn, what's that? You're like, it's Letterboxd. And then next thing, we're in the room right here. I make an account and it's like, what movies have you watched? I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, how do I answer this? But then 3 hours later, I'd logged 600 movies.
Yeah.
So, and then Gianni got on the train that night.
Yep. Yeah, I love Letterboxd. It's I'm so happy that Flynn kind of introduced us to it, because it's kind of this niche platform right now, but slowly but surely it's really growing. And there's a lot of really cool people on there, like Mauricio's on there from Brown Table.
Yeah, that's the cool part is you can follow your friends, you
Yeah.
can follow people you like, because you can also write reviews on it.
Yeah.
You can make lists and stuff, which,
Mhm.
like, I was stalking Flynn's profile. He made, like, a list of Star Wars movies ranked. So I was like, let me do that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, favorites.
Getting back to favorites, my list right now, if I can remember correctly, is Steve Jobs from 2015, starring Michael Fassbender, Seth Rogen.
Great movie.
Ford versus Ferrari, which just came out last year. 500 Days of Summer.
So good.
And I am blanking on my fourth one, but
Oh, I know it
You
because
know
I
it?
stalked your
Oh, go
profile.
ahead.
Social
Tell me.
Network.
It's the Social Network.
I was gonna say, is that the Marlins and the Trout?
The Marlins and the
Um,
Trout.
Yeah, I actually did just adjust my favorites,
Ooh.
because picking favorite movies is so hard. So I thought, instead of a top 4, my 4 favorite directors as of right now are David Fincher, Bong Joon-ho, Marty Scorsese, and Damien Chazelle. So I thought a cool thing to do for my top 4 is just to instead pick my top 4 directors and then pick my favorite of their movies. So going off The Social Network is my one. That's my favorite movie. I love The Social Network so much. And then it's Parasite, The Departed, which I think is an interesting choice for favorite Scorsese movie. I love Goodfellas too, and Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. But
Hot take alert.
Yeah, the Departed is so good. And then Whiplash for Damien Chazelle, which so Social Network and Whiplash were there already, but then I adjusted to put The Departed and Parasite on there. So I can always be representing the Bong Hive.
Bong Hive. Yesterday I sent Flynn a link on Instagram to a bunch of Bong Hive merch, and he's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah,
It was one of those ads that just popped up because like we talk about Parasites, so like
hit my wallet
Apple is
hard.
spying on us, and he's just like, "Hey,
Yeah.
here you go."
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
else? I mean, what else is new? Apple.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what are my 4 favorites on there? Well,
Mid 90s.
we all know it's mid-90s.
Mid-90s,
I
yeah.
mean, I've talked about that on your podcast, on our podcast.
Perks.
Perks of Being a Wallflower, La La Land, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Yeah. I kind of did like this favorite director thing too,
Yeah,
minus Perks.
yeah.
Like that's just standalone, but like Damien Chazelle's my dude.
Yeah.
I love me some Edgar Wright. Like can Edgar Wright make a bad movie?
I don't think so.
No,
I think
it's not possible. Not
I think it's
possible.
possible.
Hey, Cassie, what are your favorite movies?
Okay, well, I'm like the outlier here because I'm not like a film person, but I'll watch movies. Number 1, Wayne's World, always has been, always will be. It's my pride right there. My second favorite has to be Sully with Tom Hanks. There's something about that movie. It just like, I think like at the end, like the message at the end was that people don't allow for human error, and that's like the cause of a lot of things, and like people like should like excuse human error sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that just like that message like hit me like
That's
so
the whole
hard.
point of movies. If it hits you, it hits
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. See, like I don't know this, so like it's like this huge epiphany for me, but you guys are like, yeah, that's normal. Okay.
Well, no, it's dope, not
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. But that ooh. Yikes. I don't know. This is so sudden. I don't have a
Movies.
letterbox, so like I can't physically see it. I mean, I kind of okay. So I judge movies off of if I can watch it more than once, because I can't watch most films more
Okay.
than once without getting annoyed. I don't know why, but I can watch Mean Girls every day of my life and not get tired of it.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie.
Iconic.
It is iconic. Fantastic movie. And
Wait, while you're thinking, a funny side story about Mean Girls. So my mom used to be a health teacher in high school, and before like Mean Girls was like more known, one of her students in her class got her to say, "Don't have sex or you will die," just like the health teacher in Mean Girls. And they sent me the video like, "Look what your mom said." I'm like, "All right, okay, mom, you're up with the times." That was very funny. Anyways,
I think I would have to say The Blind Side.
Yeah.
great movie.
Great movie. I could watch that all the time.
Yeah,
It evokes emotion out of you like no
Yeah.
other. It's great.
I love movies.
It's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, don't we have some fun questions to ask these lovely
Yes.
gentlemen?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
News.
for the past couple episodes, we've asked our guests a question from former Q&A episodes. And usually how production works is you run by the questions to the guests before we start recording, like secret. But they wanted to be
Raptor
surprised
pro
with
tip.
questions. So let's see how they do on the spot. So I'm going to start with Gianni. I'm actually going to ask you a question you asked us.
Okay.
So let's see if you can answer it. Yeah, I know.
Inception.
All right. How have listeners of the podcast and consumers of your individual work inspired you?
Okay. This
Thanks,
is-
Gianni, for that question.
You're welcome.
Oh, wait, he's right here.
It's me. No, you know what? That's kind of easy for me to answer because I will be honest, and I'll be the first person to say, I love the attention that I get from my videos.
Mood.
I love watching the hearts flood in every time I
Yeah.
post a video or a picture. And I really read every comment, sometimes more than once on any of my videos, podcast included. We hadn't really gotten any comments on the podcast until this interview that we just did with Mauricio from Brown Table. And all of it is really inspiring, and it's really heartwarming. And that, to me, is my fuel. That keeps me going. But there's also a negative side of that, too. When I did that whole vlogging thing in high school, I got some major flack. There were huge dislikes on my videos, some mean-spirited comments, and that can be really disheartening when you're somebody who's just trying to make stuff. But then you really sit back and think like, well, this person's at a keyboard, and I'm actually out here doing it.
Yeah.
So and like I said before, that vlogging experience, in my opinion, made me a better videographer, a better creator in general. And like I said, it has led me to where I am now, where most of my videos get really great reception. So it's definitely all about your audience, and they definitely inspire what you make and how you make it. And if you're lucky enough that you have an audience who loves what you're making, I think that makes it all that much easier to keep going, you know.
What a lovely
Wow,
answer.
that was like
Good
really
answer.
good for being on the
Yes.
spot.
Well, to be fair, the
Family
question
Feud, good
came from his
answer.
brain.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it was 4D chess. It's
That's
like,
true.
I know that when I come on freelance, I'm going to get this question. I have the perfect answer.
yeah, definitely. But your question's going to be out of left field. It's not from
Oh,
you,
man.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
no
Not
preparations.
Anywhere in the recesses of my brain.
Yeah.
So.
So this question we actually answered on the last episode, which we just uploaded like 30 minutes before the recording of this one. So you don't know what it is. It was asked by our friend Kat. If you had $1 million, would you still work or make hobbies out of your crafts?
So, $1 million is not that much money.
That's exactly what we said. But I
Yeah.
want to hear your.
Yeah.
So I think that having $1 million I would not work in like a dead end job that I didn't like. So a lot of times, especially when you're like interested in filmmaking or content creation or anything, the money is not coming in from that. So you have to have a job to kind of like supplement like what you're doing. Like when I was doing the internship with the press, I was still like working in retail, which sucks.
True.
So if I had $1 million, I think that I wouldn't work like in something like that in retail. I would try to pursue something like this and see if like being able to dedicate full time, because all of us doing this, we're students, we have jobs, we have different stuff. We can dedicate as much time as we possibly can to stuff like this, but we can't treat it like a full-time job. And a lot of the people that achieve massive success on YouTube or with their podcasts or stuff, this is their full-time job. They're able to do that. So I think that would kind of be like a base for, okay, I have this like safety parachute, so now I can dedicate all my time to do this, and let's see if I can make it take off that way. So I would continue to work. $1 million is not something that you can like live the rest of your life off of, more than likely. But it would be really cool to have that, to be able to sort of pursue passions and work in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's kind of pretty much the same answers we had, which is awesome. It's like, it's funny because like when you're a kid, you think like $1 million, like you'll never have to work again, whatever.
Yeah.
And then now if we look at it and we're like, we could spend like $1,000 in a day if we wanted to. So
I
Spend a lot more than 1,000.
Yeah.
I remember being a kid having like $20 in my wallet, like I'm the richest man in the world.
I wonder if I have money in my wallet.
I do not.
And
Aw, it's
now it's
empty.
like, yeah,
Big sad.
$30 isn't enough to fill up my gas tank. So like,
I know.
you know, money's
It's sad though, because like the price of living's changed so much over
Yeah.
the years. Like, it's so.
And then the boomers are like, why don't you have a full job, a family, a life, and
yeah.
everything? Like
wonder
the year
why.
after you graduate school. I'm
Looking
just
at-
like boomers.
yeah, give us a
looking at
small loan of $1 million.
yeah, cost of living versus like, not to get too in the weeds, but like cost of living versus like minimum wage, and like how it's gone up versus how that stayed stagnant, and a lack of upward mobility is, it makes it really hard. And so like we were talking earlier about how much easier it is to make content now, but at the same time, being in the position we are, it's not as easy to just like live and like have enough to comfortably live. So it's kind of a balance, like a give and take.
One thing I took away from your interview with Brown Table, which I listened to yesterday, I won't spoil the whole thing because I want everybody to listen to it at home.
Go watch it. We had a good time doing
yeah.
But one thing I took away from it was Mauricio talked about when he moved into college, how he didn't have internet for 3 months. And Mauricio, knowing he had a growing YouTube channel, pre-made videos before he left for school so he could post that entire time. And then he would go home to make more and then come back and like that's, and he would go to the library.
Yeah,
and
he was going
upload.
to the
Like the
the
dedication.
public library.
That's insane. That's awesome though.
Yeah, and that knowing, like Gianni was mentioning earlier, like consistency and being able to record like that. That's so important because the internet moves at 1,000 miles a minute, and so like, you can have somebody that really loves your stuff and is keeping up, and then you miss an upload and they're like, okay, I'm done with you forever. It's crazy, but that's how the internet kind of operates.
I mean, as we're recording this podcast right now, there's thousands of other podcasts recording and uploading. But the fact that both of our podcasts do it every week and we're constantly growing is pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's consistency is key.
Yeah, and sticking that out when still don't have we don't have like a big audience or anything, but there's no way that audience will grow if we don't keep working at that. So
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys now, looking a little more towards the future, not in your personal lives, but where do you hope to take Chatting Cinema? Like, do you want to do more interviews like with Brown Table, like just anything kind of like that?
Yeah, I think definitely we want to continue to try and get as many interviews as we can to help not only grow the channel, but to also gain some insight for ourselves and also practice. I think that's a really good practice of interviewing people and asking the questions, which, by the way, I think you guys do an amazing job. Like, you make us feel so
Nice.
comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the hardest thing, is making your guests feel comfortable and at ease. And also asking good questions, But as far as the future of Chatting Cinema goes, I know right now that I'm super passionate about it, and I love that there is definitely an upward trajectory. It hasn't been totally stagnant. I mean, it's not exactly growing at an exponential rate by any means, but it's still growing, and that's all that matters to me. Like Flynn said earlier, as long as we get that even one viewer a week is really special to me, because somebody's listening, somebody's looking for that upload, So that's where I'd kind of like to keep taking it, is further up and higher and better. And but I think it's fueled by our passion for film, so that's not going anywhere anytime soon.
True.
Yeah, there's always something new to talk about with movies. Like we did a few episodes on the Oscar nominations, the Golden Globes nominations. They're gonna come every year, so we'll always have stuff to talk about in the world of movies, and continuing to grow. The response so far to our Brown Table interview has been really great, and the hope is that something like that, where somebody like Mauricio has a platform that's kind of amplified it, is that people watch that, and if they like it, like, go and watch our other stuff. So the interview with Brown Table was similar, like a content creation, like what inspires you, what's your process, things like that. But if you're watching that, you're probably into movies, because Brown Table does video essays. And they're super good. So going from that and listening to, Chatting Cinema did this interview, they also just talked about the Oscars, let me watch that. Or, I love Star Wars, let me see what they had to say about each Star Wars movie. Hoping that like things like that help grow, and people that have watched our interview with Brown Table and listened kind of go back or continue watching for what we put out next.
Yeah, so my brother is like one of the biggest fans of our podcast. Shout out to Jordan for watching every week.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan.
But Jordan recently asked me, he's like, aren't you on a movie podcast sometimes? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, what's the name of it?
Yeah.
So I told him Chatting Cinema. And then yesterday he was out with two of his best friends. He also went to Stockton. And he was like, my brother does this podcast, and he's also on a movie one. So the three of them are all like, oh, we'll all listen to it. So you guys got a couple more listeners coming your way.
Sweet.
So, it's going to be fun. But, yeah, I mean, it's connections like this that mean a lot, just like a friendship-wise and then also professionally. I mean, this whole podcast is about networking and meeting people that do things cool. And, honestly, you guys have been doing a wonderful job with your podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
It's very rare to see content creators that actually, like, really work hard, and you guys definitely do that.
So. And the passion shows. So, I mean, anytime I'm talking to somebody about movies, I'm like, hey, listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we want to thank you guys again for coming on. I mean, do you have any other questions for him?
No.
I mean, you'll definitely be back on again at some point.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us.
We're trying to come up with some new ways to have guests back on aside from Q&As. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But before we go, I want your two lovely faces to look at that secondary camera right there and tell all these wonderful people watching or listening where they can find you.
Well, you can find Chatting Cinema pretty much anywhere you consume podcasts. We have a YouTube channel. You can go on Spotify. So anywhere like that. Yeah.
Yeah, very simple. We are at Chatting Cinema on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as Flynn mentioned. and we're there every week. So yeah.
Throw out your Instagrams and Twitters too, so the lovely people can find you.
My social media is all really simple. It's just my name, at Flynn Altamar. So follow my Twitter. Please follow my letterbox if you like movies, because I want more people that I can like follow like what they're watching and stuff. So that's cool. But yeah, follow my Twitter at Flynn Altamar. Add me on Instagram. Anywhere, I'll talk to you.
Yeah, and at Gianni_Fiore on Twitter, Gianni M Fiore on Instagram. Not as simple as Flynn, but
Yeah.
I'm Gianni Fiore. Look me up on Letterbox too.
I was able to lock it in, the straight name.
Look
In
me
case
up
I ever
on
get
Letterboxd.
verified, I have that handle.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm so jealous of, because I got basic ass Miller is my last name, so I never get me. Although, what was it? Letterboxd, I got my name.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I
yeah.
loved it so much. Like from the get go, it was like, I'm Luke Miller. I'm not underscore. I'm not Z. I'm not number. I'm Luke Miller. So yeah, but yeah. So thank you everybody to watching or listening. Thank you guys for being on. I hope you had a
Thanks for
good
having us.
time.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
had
having
a really
us,
great
yeah.
time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you guys later. And hey, at the end, after I'm done talking, Sully's song's gonna start playing again. Stream it. Heart Problems. Bye.
That's a pod.
That's a podcast. This was a podcast. You host a podcast. We love podcasts. Mic drop.
Podcasts are just audio movies.
True.
Forced to find love on this digital. When I've been about the traditional. Patience at a minimum. Yeah. But you gotta let it happen like a ritual. My main thing left and my side thing switched up. It's better that way.